picture this. You're standing in the tunnel of a massive echoing stadium. The lights are like glaring so brightly they actually sting your eye.
Oh yeah, the pressure's on.
Exactly. And 80,000 fans are screaming in a language you barely even speak. The ground beneath your cleats is literally vibrating.
That is quite the setup.
Right. You're about to step onto the pitch for the World Cup, but here's the catch. Your country has never, ever been here before.
Never.
Never. You're carrying the weight of a nation that the rest of the world usually just ignores. So welcome to the deep dive.
It's great to be here.
Today's mission is taking a stack of sources that were originally designed to teach teenage students around the globe. And honestly, we're just throwing the traditional rulebook out the window.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, we're using this epic, high-stakes World Cup underdog story to master some seriously advanced English vocabulary. So leave the flashcards at home.
Well, it's a brilliant approach to learning, really, because rote memorization rarely sticks.
No, it's boring.
Exactly. Staring at a list of isolated words on a whiteboard, it just doesn't give your brain a reason to care.
Right.
What we're doing today is looking at how language actually comes alive in high-stakes, pressure cooker situations.
Yeah, the real life stuff.
Right. Our backdrop is a developing nation making its very first appearance on the global stage. We're going to see how the words we use to describe survival, tactics, and, pure human willpower are rooted deeply in history and psychology.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really grasp these concepts, we need the 3D picture.
Oh, absolutely.
For every single vocabulary word we tackle today, we'll look at how it played out on the pitch, like the raw tactics, the sweat, the gameplay.
The physical reality?
Right, and then how it played out off the pitch, the team's background, their history, the economic reality of their home country.
Because language is completely multidimensional.
Yeah.
You need to see how a word functions in different environments to truly own it. A word takes on a different shadow depending on, where you shine the light.
I love that. So let's set up the opening whistle. Our underdog team walks out onto the grass, they're blinking against the camera flashes, and staring back at them from the other half of the field is an absolute giant of the sport.
The perennial title favorites.
Yeah, a total powerhouse, packed with global superstars who make like millions of dollars a year. The sources paint a terrifying picture of this opponent. They're intimidating just to look at.
And that's why the sources use a very specific word to describe them, which is formidable.
Formidable, it's a great word.
It really is. If we dive into the etymology, it comes from the Latin word formidare, which literally means to fear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so when we call an opponent formidable, we don't just mean they're skilled or talented.
Right, it's deeper than that.
I mean, it inspires an almost primal fear or deep respect because they are impressively, overwhelmingly powerful.
It's that classic David versus Goliath dynamic. Just standing next to Goliath induces a stress response.
Exactly. And the sources highlight a really fascinating dual context here. On the pitch, that translates to a giant of a team that seems mathematically impossible to beat.
Right.
But off the pitch, before the tournament even started, these underdog players faced formidable financial hardships.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about a developing nation where just securing the funding to buy professional equipment or book travel and get visas was a terrifying mountain to climb.
So the fear and respect inherent in the word formidable
Yeah.
applies just as much to the crushing poverty they had to overcome.
As it does to the athletic giants they're playing.
Exactly.
They're fighting formidable battles before they even lace up their cleats,
Yeah.
which, leaves right into the visual on the field as the game starts. It's
Right.
jarring. You have these towering, perfectly conditioned superstars against a team that looks, frankly, a bit out of their depth. The physical gap is just blindingly obvious.
And the word the text uses for that gap is discrepancy.
Discrepancy.
Yeah, and this happens to be one of the most vivid etymologies we'll cover today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it comes from the Latin discrepare. Dis meaning apart and crepare meaning to sound.
Wait, to sound?
Yes. Historically, it meant to sound out of tune.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. It's cognitive dissonance.
Exactly.
When a tiny developing nation plays a sports superpower, the visual on the pitch literally feels out of tune to the brain. Like two orchestras in the same room trying to play completely different symphonies.
That musical metaphor captures the psychology perfectly. I mean, today, discrepancy means a massive lack of similarity or an illogical difference between two things.
Right, like our brains are hardwired to notice when things don't match up.
Precisely. And the sources note the huge discrepancy in power, speed, and skill during those opening minutes.
But mirroring that, there was a massive environmental discrepancy between their under-resourced country and the advanced nations they were competing against.
Right, like their training facilities were practically non-existent compared to the wealthy nations.
Okay, wait, let me push back on this setup for a second.
Yeah.
If the discrepancy is that huge, a high school team stepping onto the pitch to play a top-tier pro team, and the financial and athletic obstacles are genuinely formidable,
Yes.
how does a team not just emotionally collapse in the first 10 minutes? I mean, human psychology dictates that when the brain registers that much out-of-tune fear, the fight-or-flight response kicks in.
Right.
And mostly it's flight. You just fold.
Well, that is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it takes us directly into their defensive strategy and their underlying mental state.
Okay.
Because on paper, you're absolutely right. They should have folded. They should have been paralyzed by the discrepancy.
Right, so let's get into that harrowing first half. The whistle blows, and it's just an absolute slaughter. The formidable opponent is attacking relentlessly.
Just wave after wave.
Wave after wave of offense. Shots are hitting the crossbar. Corner kicks are flying in. There's pure chaos in the penalty box. The underdogs are sprinting until their lungs literally burn, but they just refuse to break.
And the sources capture that refusal to break with the word resilience.
Resilience.
Yeah, we hear this thrown around a lot in pop psychology and corporate seminars,
Oh, constantly.
But its roots are purely, violently physical. It comes from the Latin resolere, which means to leap back or to rebound.
So literally bouncing back off the turf.
Yes. Every time a defender gets knocked down by a stronger striker, they physically leap back up to protect the goal.
Wow.
But the sources reveal something much deeper happening off the field, too.
What was that?
Before they even arrived at the World Cup, a severe injury to one of their key players threatened their entire campaign.
Oh, right, their star player.
Yeah. And it was their mental resilience, their ability to emotionally leap back from the devastating news that they were losing their star, that really forged their mindset.
So they'd been practicing rebounding from disaster long before this match even started.
Exactly.
Now, a huge part of that on-field survival was their goalkeeper. I mean, he's diving left, diving right, tipping the ball over the net with his fingertips.
That's incredible.
The text describes his performance as softening the absolute barrage of goals the favorite team was trying to score.
Right. And the precise word used here is mitigate.
Mitigate.
This is a crucial concept, especially when you're analyzing risk. It means to make something less severe, less harmful, or less painful.
Okay.
The Latin root is mitigare, which translates to soften.
Oh, so mitigating is like putting a massive industrial shock absorber on a car.
That's a great way to put it.
Like you're still driving over a terrible pothole-filled road, you're still hitting every single bump, but the shock absorber mitigates the impact, preventing the car's axle from just snapping in half.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. Notice that mitigate doesn't mean to completely stop or prevent.
Right, you're still hitting the potholes.
Exactly. The opponent is still taking lethal shots. The danger hasn't vanished. But the goalkeeper is mitigating the damage. He's absorbing the shock.
And off the pitch.
Off the pitch, the sources note that the coach's incredible leadership mitigated the players' underlying fears.
He couldn't remove the formidable opponent,
and
he couldn't magically erase the discrepancy in skill.
Right, but he could soften the paralyzing anxiety his team was feeling in the locker room.
But here's the reality of soccer, and really any competitive endeavor, right? You can't win a match just by surviving.
You can't.
You can't just play shock absorber defense forever. The pressure will eventually snap the axle. You need a spark.
Yes.
You have to go on the offensive. And that shifts our narrative to the crucial second half.
The tipping point where survival turns into actual strategy.
I want to dial up the excitement here because the atmosphere is just electric. It's the second half. The underdog team is exhausted, practically gasping for air, but they're hanging on at 0-0.
Barely hanging on.
Right. So the coach realizes he has to change the dynamic before his players collapse. So he makes a massive tactical gamble. He pulls off a tired veteran midfielder and subs in this young, relatively unknown rookie attacker.
A huge risk.
Massive risk. But the moment this kid's cleats touch the grass, the energy of the 80,000 people in the stadium visibly shifts.
And the text describes that substitution as something that invigorated the team.
Invigorated.
Let's break that down. It combines the Latin prefix in, meaning toward or into, with vigor, which means liveliness or vitality.
Okay.
So to invigorate means to literally pour life, strength, and energy into an empty vessel.
Man, you can feel that through the screen. The heavy, stagnant air just evaporates.
Exactly. The rookie invigorates the tactical atmosphere on the field. He injects raw life into their dead legs.
And what about the off-the-pitch context?
Looking at our sources, this physical invigoration mirrors an emotional one. The team knew that back home, millions of their citizens were crowding around fuzzy television screens in the streets, passionately cheering for them.
Wow.
And that knowledge, that deep national pride, invigorated the players' hearts when their biological stamina was completely depleted.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this rookie, he doesn't just run fast, he's weaponizing his speed.
Yes.
He's weaving through the defense. These massive, formidable defenders try to tackle him, but they keep grasping at empty air. He's dodging, spinning, leaving world-class athletes completely disoriented.
And the sources describe his movement as elusive.
Elusive.
The root here is fascinating because it gives us insight into the psychology of a defender facing him.
Oh.
It comes from the Latin eludere, which means to playfully escape or to mock.
To playfully escape, that is the ultimate insult to a defender.
It really is.
When a great dribbler toys with you, it just breaks your confidence.
It shatters it. Someone or something that is elusive is difficult to catch, difficult to pin down, or even difficult to comprehend.
Right.
On the pitch, the striker's physical movements are elusive. He's playfully escaping the tackles, making the Giants look foolish.
And conceptually, off the pitch.
Conceptually, the sources point out that for this developing nation, the ultimate dream of simply competing on a world stage, let alone winning, has always been a fantasy.
Always elusive.
Exactly. But suddenly, because of this invigorated play, that dream is no longer an elusive fantasy. It's materializing into something they might actually be able to grasp.
It's coming into focus. Because of this elusive striker, the entire math of the game changes. The underdogs aren't just absorbing shocks anymore. They're getting corner kicks. They're taking actual shots on goal.
The tide is turning.
The crowd is getting louder. They're sensing the upset. The sources say the underdog team is suddenly riding the momentum of the match.
Momentum. Now, this is a brilliant example of a hard science term infiltrating human psychology.
From physics, right?
Yes, we borrow it directly from physics, stemming from the Latin movere, meaning to move.
Okay.
In physics, momentum is the quantity of motion of a moving body, measured as a product of its mass and velocity.
Mass times velocity. Okay, so how does an equation dictate human emotion on a soccer pitch?
Well, think about what mass and velocity represent here.
Okay.
The mass is the weight of the nation's expectations, the collective energy of the crowd.
Wow. Okay.
And the velocity is the sudden, invigorated speed of their gameplay. When you multiply those, it creates a driving force.
A psychological force.
Yes, it's the sensation that a team is an unstoppable snowball rolling down a mountain.
And once you have it, the gravity of the situation completely flips. It's incredibly hard for the favorite team to stop that snowball, even with all their superstars.
Right.
And the sources tell us that off the pitch, their grand plan isn't just to win one game. They want to ride the momentum of this incredible first appearance into future tournaments. They want to change their national sports infrastructure forever.
It's a huge driving force.
Okay, wait, I want to pause the game clock for a second and look at the actual mechanics of the upset.
Sir.
The underdog team is invigorated. They have the momentum. Their striker is being incredibly elusive, but they're still playing against a formidable world-class opponent. The game is still tied 0-0.
Yes, still tied.
So what actually causes the dam to break? Why doesn't the favorite just, ride it out?
This is where the psychology of pressure gets really dark for the favorite.
Sorry.
Yeah. In high-stakes situations, momentum usually does one specific thing to an unprepared giant. It forces a fatal error. A powerhouse team is used to dictating the pace. They aren't used to being pushed backward by a team they perceive as inferior.
Right.
So cognitive dissonance sets in again. They panic.
Which brings us to the final chaotic play of the game. The referee is checking his watch. The final whistle is literally seconds away.
The tension is incredible.
The underdog team presses hard into the opponent's penalty box. The favorite team, totally rattled by the momentum and the noise, makes a shocking defensive mistake.
A huge blunder.
A sloppy, panicked pass out of the backfield. The elusive rookie intercepts it, takes one touch to settle the ball, and fires it right into the back of the net.
Incredible.
The underdog scores the dramatic game-winning goal.
And that catastrophic mistake introduces our next word. The text states that the opponent's mistake precipitated their defensive collapse.
Wait, let me stop you there.
Sure.
Precipitate usually has a massive negative connotation, right?
Right.
Like impending doom, falling off a cliff, or literally precipitation, like a storm raining down. Why would the sources use a catastrophic word to describe the underdog's ultimate glorious victory?
It's a fantastic observation, and you're totally right to push back on the connotation. The Latin root is precipitare, which means to throw headlong or to cast down.
Okay.
As a verb, to precipitate means to cause an event, usually one that is bad, undesirable, or disastrous, to happen suddenly and unexpectedly.
Right, so why use it here?
Because they're focusing on the mechanics of the opponent's failure.
Okay.
The underdog's victory was glorious, but it was triggered by the favorite throwing themselves headlong into disaster. The bad pass precipitated, it instantly caused the sudden collapse of their defense.
So one team's precipitation into disaster is another team's miracle.
Precisely. And there's a brilliant irony in how the sources use this word off the pitch, too.
How so?
Earlier in the year, we talked about that severe injury to the underdog's key player. The sources note that injury almost precipitated the team's complete elimination before the tournament even began.
Oh, wow. It's amazing how the exact same word describes both their near downfall and their opponent's actual downfall.
It is.
It just shows how incredibly fast fortunes change in high-stakes environments. One moment you're falling headlong off the cliff, and the next your opponent is the one in free fall.
It's the perfect linguistic container for sudden chaotic turning points.
And the aftermath of that sudden turn is pure magic. The ball hits the net, the referee blows the final whistle, and the stadium literally erupts. The sources describe it as an exhilarating roar from the crowd.
Exhilarating. It means making someone feel thrillingly happy, animated, or elated.
Like a rush.
Exactly. It comes from the Latin hilaris, meaning cheerful, which, by the way, is the exact same root where we get the word hilarious.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But exhilarating isn't about comedy. It's about a rush of pure, vibrant, life-affirming joy.
You can just see the fans in the stands crying, hugging complete strangers, throwing their scarves in the air. The sheer decibel level is exhilarating.
The stadium is literally shaking with it.
Yeah.
And that exhilarating atmosphere on the pitch perfectly matched the massive street festivals that immediately erupted back in their home country.
The joy just crossed oceans.
It really did. It transformed a quiet Tuesday night into a national holiday.
Which sets up the final word used to describe this entire event.
Yeah.
Because beating a giant, when you have a fraction of the resources, overcoming that massive visual and financial discrepancy, surviving the onslaught.
Yes.
The sources call this victory unprecedented.
Unprecedented. Let's break down the architecture of this word.
Okay.
Un meaning not, pre meaning before, and seed meaning to go.
So nothing has gone before it.
Literally. It means never done or known before.
History is literally starting from scratch, a completely blank slate.
Overcoming such a massive power gap on the global stage wasn't just an upset, it was an unprecedented miracle.
Right.
And off the pitch, the foreign press, who usually ignore this developing country entirely, were forced to pay attention. They heaped praise on their unprecedented passion and resilience. They did something that had literally never been done in the history of the sport.
So what does this all mean?
Good question.
Why did we just spend a deep dive breaking down a soccer match to learn vocabulary? Well, think about it. If I just handed you a flashcard that said precipitate, verb, to cause an event to happen suddenly,
You'd be bored.
you'd memorize it for a test and forget it by tomorrow morning.
Exactly.
But when you tie precipitate to that catastrophic defensive mistake that threw a World Cup favorite headlong off a cliff while the whole world watched, that sticks in your brain.
It really does. And if we connect this back to the broader human experience, it proves that language isn't just a sterile tool for passing an exam.
No, not at all.
It's the framework we use to understand our own struggles. Whether you're a teenager facing a formidable final exam, or a young professional trying to mitigate risks in a chaotic new job, or an athlete stepping onto a global stage, The language of struggle and triumph is universal.
So universal.
Understanding the architecture of these words, knowing that resilience means to physically leap back from a blow, or that an elusive goal is playfully escaping your grasp, it gives you a much richer toolkit to describe your own life.
You aren't just learning definitions today, you're learning how to articulate the mechanics of your own journey.
Beautifully said.
And that brings me to a final thought for you to chew on. This underdog team's unprecedented victory shattered the established reality of their sport.
It completely changed the game.
They went from invisible to immortal in 90 minutes. So, if you can harness the momentum of your own learning and add these formidable words to your everyday vocabulary, how might that change how the world hears you?